Everybody, my name is Kev. This is a financial lifestyle channel, and as you can see, I'm in a new place. It's going to be more details about that later. But today, what I really wanted to talk about, and this is a message very specific to my men. Of course, women are welcome to listen to this message, but I really wanted to hone in the importance about environments, right? And ensuring that we as men are taking as much advantage, as much leverage about our environments. And as being a man of God, one of my greatest resources is the Bible. And, you know, what's kind of funny is that the book of Genesis, especially the first couple of chapters, provides so much insight into what God has intended in terms of our environments and how we are to conduct ourselves and how we are to take advantage of the resources that he's given us. You know, quite often women will say that they want a provider, they want a protector. They're not wrong in saying those things, but God has never called men to be a provider or to be a protector. God is our provider. God is our protector. And so going back to Genesis, I want to provide three things that I've learned when it comes to environments and things that you can employ in your life to make sure you're taking full advantage of what God has planned and has called for you to act when it comes to the environment and to have financial prosperity, to enjoy spiritual prosperity, and just overall a higher wellness in life. So point number one, right? And that is to take a survey of your environment. When you look at Genesis chapter 2, God takes Adam after he's formed him, and he basically gives him a tour of the Garden of Eden, the garden that's contained within Eden. And he says, look, here's food, here's vegetables and fruit, seed-bearing plants. Here's natural resources. Here's water. Here's gold. Here's bendulum. Here's onyx. He gives them boundaries. You can eat of everything in the garden except for the tree of the knowledge of good and of evil, right? All these things God has provided. We like to call God by certain names. One of them is, which is Jehovah Jireh. He's my provider, right? There's nothing that Adam provided. He didn't bring anything into this world. He can't take anything out of this world. And that's no different than with us as well. We have the same type of provision. And so the first thing you want to do is you want to take a survey of everything that God has given you, whether it's of high value, whether it's of low value, whether you understand how you can take leverage of it. Everything's of great importance here, right? So that's number one. You want to take a survey of your land, right? And one of the things that will be discovered later on is that God has provided a marketplace for Adam, right? Which is another beautiful thing, is that all the things that God has provided around you, everything's a marketplace, a transaction of buying, of selling, of trading, of bartering, right? To be able to take leverage and take more things, right, into life. That brings me up to point number 2 from the book of Genesis, right? One of the items that God shows Adam is the animals, right? These animals are unnamed. God presents the animals to Adam and says, basically, whatever you name them, so it shall be, right? Names have a very, very significant impact in the Bible. And that's my point number 2, is that you need to take on the titles that God has given you and not the titles that man is giving you. As men, we're not called to be protectors. We're not called to be providers. We do provide those things, don't get me wrong, but that's not our names, right? Adam, the first man, right? We look at being made in God's image, right? We are lords. One of the things that you hear Sarah call Abraham or Abram is Lord, right? We were called to be priests over our home. we were called to be landlords, right? And so all these titles extend to some type of ownership, some type of management. And when you understand it about your environment, that you're not just a simple benefactor of your environment, you are somebody that has full control over your environment. And your job is to be fruitful and to multiply. Those are things in Genesis that God has called us to be, right? And those things don't just extend to children. Those things also extend to things, to business, to influence, right? And so as these animals are being presented to Adam, he's calling them by whatever name he sees fit. Maybe it's due to their appearance. Maybe it's due to their function, right? The last creation that he names is woman. After she has been formed, right, God presents Eve to Adam, and Adam calls her woman, for she came out of man. I know that this world sometimes can be very centric around mothers, right, and their children. But we see in Genesis a particular order. Man was created first, then the woman was taken out of man. She was called to be a helpmeet. She too has a title as well. Help meet the purpose that was given to man, right? To multiply, to procreate, to subdue the earth and everything that's in it, right? Not some of these pseudo titles that people give to themselves that I'm like, where'd you get this from? Because you start acting in those things instead of acting your God-given titles, right? And that's one of the tactics that the enemy wants to do, right? Which brings me to point number 3. Satan. The Bible makes it very clear that Satan comes to kill, steal, and destroy. That's what he comes to do. And what he loves to do is provide disorganization. He loves to create chaos, right? And he can do it in very simple ways, just by the way that we understand things. He questioned our ability to understand what God has called us to do, the instructions he's given us. In the case of the garden, he has Eve question what she understands in terms of boundaries, right? Not partaking of the forbidden fruit from the tree of the knowledge of good and of evil, right? We see that just like Satan, who was kicked out of heaven, him and 1/3 of the angels, he was successful in doing the same thing for Adam, getting Adam kicked out of his environment, getting Adam removed from the provisions that God had given him, right? We have to be very careful as men. The people that we allow into our environment, stay in it within our environment, and also exit our environments. All those things need to be always in check and always need to be reviewed, right? Because if you're not careful, you'll lose everything. People have lost, their wealth. They have lost their families. They have lost their jobs, right? All these things that God has given you simply because you did a poor job of managing your environment. You allow things to happen that were not fitting to what the will of God was for your particular life, right? So I just want you to remember that you need to take very, very serious consideration about your environment and understand that you need to take on that title of being a lord, a landlord, a priest of your home. Whether you have a family or not, whether you have a business or you have certain provisions or not, these are things that God has called you to be. And so we have a responsibility to act in those things even before they come, right? He told Abraham, hey, you're going to be the father of many nations before he was the father of many nations, right? He told Adam to multiply and to subdue the earth and be prosperous before he even done those things, right? Before he had a helpmeet to help assist him with those things. He understood what his role was, which was to take care of the environment. Because when you take care of the environment, all the other things like protection, provision, providing, all those things come as a benefit or a consequence of being within the bounds of the environment. They just naturally do. When I, as a man, give my last name to a woman, right? She is an extension of my lordship, right? She's an extension of what God has given me. And so God has given me protection. God has given me provision. Those things extend to her. Those things extend to the children. So there's no need to kind of fabricate or to take on roles or to prove to anybody something that all goes back to the thanksgiving of God, right? I think it's kind of blasphemous for a man to call himself a provider, to be honest with you, because I'm like, what did you provide? You brought nothing into this world. You're not going to take anything out of this world, right? What did you provide? Everything that you have was given by God. So let's give glory to God. And it's these subtleties, right, that exist within the Christian body. And it's so sad, right, that people permeate the things of the world instead of understanding what the word says about these things, right? So I don't want to make this too lengthy. I feel like I'm starting to get real preachy, but it's okay. I'm just flowing with what the Holy Spirit has put into my heart. But I really want to provide that emphasis for men to really make sure that you're being mindful of your environment, that you have a plan, that you have a strategy, that your environment will change from season to season. But just remember those three things, right? Number one, take a survey of your environment. Number two, make sure that you are taking on the proper names of your responsibilities as a Lord, as a priest in your home. And number three, making sure that you're protecting what comes in, what stays, and what leaves your environment so that you don't lose what God has given you. With that being said, if this message resonated with you, go ahead and click that like button. Go ahead and comment, because I would love to hear your thoughts on these topics. I got a couple of videos that are going to be kind of similar coming out soon. So just feel free to let me know what you think. And if it's something that I really like, I'm going to make a video about it. So with that being said, have a good one.